So what kind of feeling did walking in the rain to get here? Was it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Did you react with craving for more pleasant feelings or craving to be rid of painful feelings? The answer isn't yes. There, there, there were a few questions there. Which questions do you answer yes? Which questions, you know? Yeah. And the thing is, we know what the right answer should be, but when we're practicing the Dharma, it's not a question of giving what we think the teachers want to hear. It's the questions are asked so that we can examine our own experience and see what our reactions are and how we answer things, and then see if we're on the right track or not, if we're going in the direction uh, of the purpose of the meditation, or if we're winding up with some other conclusion. Okay? So, because it's very easy, to wind up with different conclusions and completely misunderstand what the Buddha's trying to do, and what he's trying to make us understand. So, for example, one big misunderstanding when we meditate on the foulness of the body is just thinking, oh, the body's terrible, I don't want it, I want to get rid of it, it's awful, with a lot of, anger and hostility towards the body. That's not what the Buddha wanted as the result. He wants us to see the body for what it is, and then see that attachment to the body is antithetical to our spiritual yearning and our spiritual desire. And so to give up that attachment to the body. Okay. But giving up attachment to the body doesn't mean, nah, I can't stand it, get it away, I want to die. That's completely, yeah. Okay. Another big misunderstanding in Dharma is when we meditate uh, on the disadvantages of the self centered thought. And then we come to the conclusion that we're bad because we're selfish. Okay, that is the wrong conclusion. We're not bad because we're selfish. Okay, we've adopted too much of a judgmental attitude that labels things good and bad. Yeah, it's not that self-centeredness is bad, and therefore we should hate ourselves for being self-centered, because then again, the more we hate ourselves, the more we're being self-centered, because now we're the star of, the guilt and the shame and everything like that. That's not decreasing the self-centeredness. Okay. So again, the conclusion to come to is that self-centeredness is against our own values, against what we really want to do in our life. So we want to abandon it so that we can actually actualize our spiritual aims and be happy. There's no judgment of good or bad. Okay, we add that on. So I'm mentioning these things because there's a lot of them. And unless they're pointed out to us, we often just think that they are the right conclusions to come to. And then we get really tangled up in our Dharma practice. Okay? So, meditating on the relationship with our spiritual mentor also, oh my goodness, we come up with so many wrong conclusions. Yeah. Well, my spiritual mentor, my guru, likes Tibetan tea. It's very unhealthy. It has so much butter, so much salt, but he likes it. So if I don't like it and I disagree with my spiritual mentor about the value of drinking Tibetan tea, then I am breaking Samaya and I'm going to go to hell because I don't have, I'm not relying on my spiritual mentor properly. Everything he believes, I should believe. Yeah. So does that mean if your teacher thinks Tibetan tea is good, that you should drink it? Or that you should encourage anybody to drink it when it's so unhealthy? It's healthy if you live in Tibet at a high altitude, but not healthy when you live in Singapore. Okay? So we get so tangled up. Oh, I disagree with my teacher. What's wrong with me? Yeah. Did you come to the Dharma to learn what to eat and drink, or did you come to the Dharma for awakening? Okay. One of my spiritual mentors, this was many years ago, he thought George Bush was a fantastic president. Yeah, George Bush was the one who sent American troops to invade Iraq, and then the whole Iraq war started, and you know, the rest is water under the bridge. But you know, because he was looking at George Bush, and George Bush, you know, he thought that freedom for Tibet, he was for Tibet, and he criticized uh, Chinese not giving people proper rights. Yeah. So my teacher thought George Bush, wonderful president. I looked and it's like, well, yeah, I agree with him on his position towards Tibet, but I don't think he's a good president. You know, he got us involved in war, he got a lot of people killed with no clear resolution. Yeah, he cut social programs that were helpful to the population. Yeah. So does that mean that I'm bad because I have a different opinion than my teacher? Yeah, it means I'm bad. It means I'm wrong. It means I have to agree with, all my teachers' political opinions in order to be a good student. Yeah. Is that why I came to Dharma, to learn politics? No. Yeah. I came to Dharma to learn how to have a peaceful mind regarding what happens politically. But I didn't come to Dharma to learn who to vote for. Okay? So there's many things like this. We have to be really clear what the purpose of meditations are. Yeah. And so similarly, when we hear about, oh, pleasant feeling leads to craving and attachment, which is, an affliction. Unpleasant feeling leads to anger and resentment, which is also affliction. So then we conclude, oh, therefore, I shouldn't feel anything. Yeah. I should somehow make it so that my body and mind have no feelings. Okay? That I'm a robot. I can stick my hand in fire, it doesn't hurt. Is that the conclusion we're supposed to come to? No. I mean, how can you make yourself not have pleasant and unpleasant feelings? Those feelings are not the problem. What the problem is our craving in response to the feelings, our attachment and aversion to those feelings. That's what keeps us bound in samsara. Okay? So really, think well about about these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Similarly, another big misunderstanding. When we meditate on death, yeah, then and they talk about, in the teachings, they use the word, the fear of death. So we think of fear of death, and what do? We go to our afflictive fear of death. Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to die. I'm afraid I'm going to die. I don't want to die. I'm afraid I'm going to die. What's going to happen? My relatives, the people I love, they're all going to die. This is terrible. And we think, oh, that's the fear of death that I'm supposed to cultivate by meditating on death and impermanence. In other words, I'm supposed to feel panic and anxiety and go nutty with fear. Do you think that's the Buddha's purpose in having us meditate on impermanence and death? I mean, we can go get crazy with fear all by ourselves. We don't need Buddha to teach us how to do that. We need Buddha's teaching to instruct us how not to have that kind of fear. Yeah. So what does it mean? This is some translation issues too. Why, okay, literally the word translates as fear. But maybe it could also translate as awareness of danger. Because we meditate on death to become aware of the danger of of living a life of distraction and not making use of our precious human life. Okay. When we have an awareness of possible danger, that can be really helpful. When you are merging on the highway, you better have a feeling of the danger of driving recklessly. Okay, that doesn't mean every time you're on the highway you're going, oh, I'm so afraid I'm going to get in an accident and this other big car is going to jump into me. If you get into that, you're not going to be able to drive very well. Okay, so when we hear fear, we shouldn't think of ordinary fear. It's more a wisdom that is aware of danger. Yeah. And awareness of possible danger can help us prevent getting hurt, yeah, or making bad choices. So in the meditation on impermanence and death, that's what it's supposed to do. Okay? So that was, again, an introduction that I was not planning to say, but it came out, so maybe it'll be helpful to you. Yeah. I try and sometimes give people perspectives on how to understand the Dharma and misconceptions that can easily pop up. That things that are not brought up in the text. Yeah, the texts tell you this and this, and they're beautiful, and they, give you the right way to practice, but they don't always understand I'm sure the saints, the sages understood how our mind can have wrong conceptions, but the texts often don't really mention the wrong conceptions that we can have. So that I try and do that because I know that if somebody had pointed these things out to me many years ago, it would have been so much easier. When you have to figure out some of these things out for yourself, it can be really difficult. Yeah. That. Okay, so let's start with visualizing the merit field in the space in front. And remember that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are showing us the way to awakening. They are not criticizing us. They are not judging us. In fact, they look at us with complete acceptance and compassion. And that's important to add to our visualization. Yeah, they're looking at us with acceptance of who we are, what we've done, and also with compassion, wanting us to be free of dukkha. And they're looking at us knowing our potential and wanting to help us awaken that potential. Let's look at our motivation, generate a good motivation. So that entails having forgiveness for the people who have harmed us, and also for forgiving ourselves for the errors that we have made and our misdeeds. So we often get angry, thinking that anger is the only possible response to harm. But ask yourself a question, is that true? That when somebody harms me, the only way to respond is to be hurt and angry. Now, it may seem to us at first glance that yes, that's the only way to respond, is with hurt and anger. But we need to check up if that is actually true. Because if it is, then we are going to be imprisoned by our anger for our entire lives. Because there's always going to be situations where people do things that we don't like, even if they don't mean to hurt us. So if we have to get angry at every slight, then we're really in a bad situation, because we're going to be angry our whole lives and have no alternative way to deal with harm or criticism or anything like that. That's pretty dismal, isn't it? If we think like that. But if we try not to take everything personally, and instead see that when people do harmful actions, they're acting out of their own pain, their own confusion, and we just happen to be the object. But it's not really that they want to hurt us. They really want to get rid of their own pain. And they just don't know how to do it in a non-harmful way. So those people are really stuck. And shouldn't they be objects of our compassion, not objects of our anger, returning their anger at us to our anger at them? If we see that they are unhappy and the wish for happiness is motivating them, and that they don't know the proper causes for happiness, then aren't they objects of compassion? Wouldn't it be more realistic to want to help them and to not take what they're saying and doing so personally. So see if you can let go of some of the hurt and the anger and replace it with an attitude of compassion that wishes the other person well. And then with that mind of forgiveness, let's generate the bodhicitta, aiming to become fully awakened so that we can have the wisdom and compassion and skill to be of the greatest benefit to all living beings. And may that be our motivation for sharing the Dharma today. Okay, let's do some Q&A, or Q, maybe A. Not guaranteed. There is so much pain seeing the cruelty that happens in the world. For example, random useless killing of innocent people, war, oppression, and discrimination towards vulnerable groups. How can we deal with the pain and not be affected by it too much? Or how can we use it to in our Dharma practice? Okay. It's natural when we see others suffering to have pain because we realize that that same suffering could happen to us. Yeah, so there's a feeling of empathy with the people who are suffering. The typical way people deal with that pain of seeing other people suffer is to ignore it and to say, it's too much for me, I can't deal with it, I'm going to be like an ostrich and stick my head in the sand and just not look at it. Okay. That's not a very good strategy for dealing with pain. You know, the pain of seeing others in pain, the pain of seeing injustice and oppression. When I think of bodhisattvas, yeah, they see the pain of all of us ordinary beings here in the world. And yet they don't stick their head in the sand and ignore it. Why not? They could. They could think, oh, I have so much compassion, I can't bear to see this pain, so, let me stick my head under the table, I just won't see any pain. They don't do that. Why not? Yeah? It's because they know that pain, oppression, war, and so on, these things have causes, and the causes can be eliminated. So because the causes can be eliminated, bodhisattvas always have an optimistic attitude. They don't expect that they themselves will be able to eliminate all the causes of suffering in a finger snap. Okay, yeah, they're realistic. They know that, why do sentient beings suffer? Because of ignorance. And they know that it takes a long time for sentient beings to understand what the truth is and to generate wisdom. And so they don't have this expectation, of I'm going to be Superman, Superwoman, fly into the situation and fix it, and get rid of all those nasty people. Yeah, they know that that is impossible. Yeah. But they do know that if they stick with something and slowly grow their own compassion and wisdom and knowledge, and uh, slowly help other people to see things more accurately, then they know that the causes that result in this atrocious suffering can be overcome, not just temporarily by signing a peace treaty, but forever by sentient beings attaining liberation and awakening. So I think that bodhicitta is our medicine for enabling us. Thank you. Um, it's our medicine for enabling us to look at every situation with hope and optimism, and to also have a courageous mind that is going to stick with things over time and not get discouraged because, and give up all unrealistic expectations, uh, and just continue with eliminating the causes of suffering. Yeah. And then your life feels meaningful. Gradually, you can see change in yourself and in the beings that you're helping. Okay? So, what this person is speaking of here, when it's so painful to look at the situation of the world now, what often happens is we then go into personal distress. I can't bear to see that suffering. When we think, I can't bear to see that suffering, who is the foremost person in that? It's me, isn't it? I can't bear to see their suffering. Yeah. So our attention has gone from focus on the beings who are suffering to focus on my suffering because I see them suffer and I feel helpless to do anything about it. Okay? So bodhisattvas know it's going to be a long haul, but they know they aren't helpless and they know things can change and they're willing to engage however long it takes. Yeah? And that's really good because if all the bodhisattvas, the beings who became bodhisattvas before us, looked at us and our suffering and all the stupid things we do to create suffering for ourselves and others, those bodhisattvas would have just said, these sentient beings are hopeless. I can't do anything for them. Yeah, I'm going into my own nirvana. You guys figure it out yourself. Yeah, but they don't say that. Yeah, because they know we can change. They know we have potential. Yeah, so they don't fall into personal distress, but they have a very courageous, strong mind, yeah, that continue to create the causes for goodness and continue to help beings abandon the cause of pain. Mm-hmm. So the 32 parts of the body focuses on the unattractiveness of form. It is also an effective antidote for people with high sexual desire, as far as I know. Yes, that's true. So I do know a person who has a fetish disorder, who derives sexual gratification from vomit and feces. How do we overcome higher sexual urges in this case? This is a situation where somebody needs to see a therapist or a counselor. Yeah, they need to really say, I have a problem, I need help, and then seek the individual kind of help that a therapist or a counselor can give for that. Okay. Mhm. Okay, so I'm 23 and I've attended your talks for many years. Still, I experience discomfort, headaches, and even verge of puking while trying out the meditation on the mindfulness of the body. Given that this happens, should I persist in the meditation or should I take a break and not go intensely into it? I would say if you're having a severe reaction like that, step back from the meditation, yeah, or do it in a less intense manner. You know, if certain parts of the body really trigger you, don't, you know, with aversion and so on, don't meditate on those parts. Yeah, stick maybe with the first one, you know, head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin, you know, and just um, look at that. Or another way to do it is to meditate on you know, what we talked about yesterday, what society has taught us about our body, and how we should always look different than we are and be different than we are, and something's wrong with us. So, if actually meditating on the parts of the body is making you want to throw up, instead develop some acceptance of how you look, what you are, and so on. Okay? Because that kind of acceptance can make the mind not as irritable when later on then you meditate on the foulness of the body. Another antidote could be to visualize the Buddha or Chenrezig, Kuan Yin in the space in front, and they're radiating light towards you. And as the light enters your body, either through the crown of your head going down or through all of your pores, then think that the light is purifying your body, okay? And meditate on your body being hollow or your body being filled with light, okay? So if you're having some kind of intense adverse reaction, do this and change how you're looking at your body. Okay. So, can you please share about the Buddha Hall project? Why build it? And how does the Buddha Hall benefit us as we are in Singapore? That's a good question because we all want to give to things that benefit us, not to things that don't benefit us. Okay, but the the real thing is, I think, and what I've seen, you know, in so many people around the world, is we love the Dharma. We see the benefit in practicing the Dharma. We want to spread the Dharma teachings and make them more available to others. And it doesn't matter who those others are or where they live. Yeah. So the benefit that comes from the Buddha Hall in the US, gives you, if your aspiration is to help people in that country and also international people. We get a lot of international students. To help people meet the Dharma in practice without caring, who they are, where they come from, then that gives you see the value of it. Okay. And it's really wonderful to think of all the Buddhist centers and temples and everything all around the world and all of the people who have the opportunity to meet the Dharma and practice. Yeah, so we shouldn't just think, well, what benefits me? That doesn't benefit me. It's like, if you give to a charity that feeds people in Somalia, do you go, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't give to that charity that feeds people in Somalia, even though people in Somalia are starving, because their hunger, eliminating their hunger doesn't do anything for me. Yeah, do we think like that? Yeah, no, we think, oh, people are hungry. I know what it feels like on a much more moderate scale than the kind of starvation those people are experiencing. And I want to do what I can to alleviate suffering. Yeah. So there's so many different kinds of suffering, physical, mental, spiritual. So we may be attracted to different projects uh, to show our compassion, and that's fine. But we shouldn't just close our minds and just say, I'm only doing things when it benefits me. Yeah. Because if you were born in Somalia, wouldn't you want other people to help you, even though they don't know you? Even though they may live in a prosperous country like Singapore? Yeah. So see it in that way. Okay. As for the benefit of the Buddha Hall, it's the same as the benefit of, temples and Dharma centers here and everywhere else around the world. Yeah, it's a place for people to practice. It's a place for people to encounter the Buddhist teachings, to learn how to calm their anger, to develop compassion, to become kinder people, to become good citizens of the planet. Yeah. So any place that kind of espouses those kind of values, I think, is a place that is beneficial. Yeah. And because that kind of, that question then makes me say, well, why am I living in America practicing Dharma there? I mean, America is such a barbaric country. It would be so much easier to come and practice in Singapore. Seriously, so much more support here. The political situation isn't crazy like it is in my country. There aren't school shootings. Nobody here has a gun. Yeah, I think that's number one. It is so smart of the government here and the people here. Nobody has weapons. So, boy, that really makes the homicide and suicide rate drop. Is that much easier to practice here? So maybe I should move to Singapore. Yeah. Then I don't need to think about Donald Trump all day. You know? It's like that guy's totally off the wall. Yeah. He said we should get rid of our Constitution. The Constitution is what holds the country together and prevents dictators and autocrats. And this is what he did last week. He said, "Oh, yeah, we should get rid of all these rules and things like that." And then a few days later, he said, "I never said that." Yeah, seriously, he did. He said, "I never said that." Okay, so sometimes you think, wouldn't it be nice to spread the Dharma in countries where people really need to have good values? Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice? I used to go to Russia to teach the Dharma. Now I dare not go. Okay. But I would like to go. But actually, I don't want to wind up like Brittany Griner. She was the American basketball player who got arrested. So, but when I used to go to Russia to teach, it was very much with, these people need help. And how can I help them? How can I help them be peaceful? How can I help them have good values? Yeah. So yeah. So why do I stay in America? It's a very good question. I think for me, it's a way, because I grew up in that country, it's a way of repaying the kindness, for the country I grew up in. That doesn't mean I'm always going to stay there and that I'm only going to do things for Americans. Yeah. But I feel like it's good to repay the kindness, and try and do something to help. So, we live in this rural area in Washington state that nobody knows where it is. In fact, many people, when you say we live in Washington, they think we live in Washington, D.C. They don't know that there's a state named Washington that's on the opposite side of the country from Washington, D.C. Okay. But, due to the power of technology, and we're trying to put it to a good use, then we stream teachings, we make the Dharma available online throughout the world. Okay, so I think that was it for the questions. There was a pile yesterday. I think some of them vanished. Okay, so we'll go back to the four establishments. I really love this teaching. Yeah, I wish we had more time to go into it. Which, by the way, if you're interested in the four establishments of mindfulness, this winter at the Abbey, our 3-month retreat will be on this topic. And so whenever we have a winter retreat, we invite people around the world to join the retreat. A few of them actually come there. Most of them do what we call retreat from afar. So they, send us their name and their picture, because we keep a picture of all the retreatants from afar in our dining room. so that we can remember that they're doing the retreat with us and we're all going in the same direction. And so those people also meditate on in this case, this winter, the 4 establishments of mindfulness. So if you're interested, go to the Abbey website and you can sign up for that. Also on my website, thubtenchodron.org, there's teachings that I gave on this practice some years ago. I don't know how many, do you know how many? A lot of, like 2 years of teachings. So you can go through it slowly. It was only once a week, yeah. But yeah, there's extensive teachings there if you want to really get into this practice. Okay. Okay. Mhm. Where were we? Okay, the mind. Okay, so just to review a little bit, when we to remember that all 4 of the objects, body, feelings, mind, and phenomena, that all of them have the common characteristics of being impermanent, of being in the nature of dukkha, and of lacking a self. Okay, so those are their common characteristics to all of them. Then there's the individual characteristics. When we went into meditations on the body yesterday, those meditations on the body are the individual characteristics of the body. Okay, so it's yeah, they're distinctive, unique for the body. Seeing it as foul and scanning the body like this. Okay, then the feelings. Okay, so we'll go into that one next. So when we talk about pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, uh, feelings, we're really bringing in the discussion of the 3 kinds of dukkha, or unsatisfactory experiences. So those of you who have studied Lam Rim, yeah, you know the 3 kinds of dukkha. What are they? What's the first one? I can't hear you. Yeah, the dukkha of suffering. Yeah, and that is very obvious suffering that every sentient being knows is painful, either mentally or physically. What's the second one? The dukkha of change. Okay, so that one means that even the pleasant experiences we have are unsatisfactory because if we do the same activity that is giving us pleasure, if we keep doing that activity, it's going to turn into pain. Okay? It's like when you're hungry and you start eating, that's pleasure. But if you keep eating and keep eating, so Chinese New Year, okay? You keep eating and you keep eating and you keep eating. And what is the result? I have a stomach ache. Okay. So the pleasure from the food isn't real pleasure, because if it were, the more you ate, the more pleasurable you would feel. But after a while, you want to go home and take some Alka-Seltzer or something. Yeah? So it changes. Yeah, it's not actual happiness. And what's the third kind of dukkha? Yeah, the dukkha of pervasive dukkha of conditioning, or pervasive compounded dukkha. And what that means is that just being under the influence of afflictions and karma, like we take rebirth under the force of afflictions and karma. We live our lives under the force of afflictions and karma. Just that is an unsatisfactory circumstance, because even though we may not be experiencing harm or unhappiness at any moment, yeah, pain can come like that. Yeah. So this pervasive compounded dukkha, it's like being on the edge of a cliff. And while you're on the top of the edge of the cliff, you feel okay. You don't look down. You ignore what is down. You just look at what's around you and you think everything is nice. But you're walking on the edge of that cliff, and at any moment, yeah, you could stumble and kerplunk. Yeah, you fall to the bottom of the cliff. Okay? So even though right now there's no pain and maybe no happiness, you're always on the edge. Yeah? So these three kinds of dukkha, the dukkha of pain, we're talking about painful feelings. The dukkha of change is talking about pleasant feelings, but how in our situation those pleasant feelings don't last. Yeah. And then the dukkha of pervasive conditioning is talking about neutral feelings. Yeah, nothing much is going on, but it could all change like that. Yeah. Now we look and we say, how could it all change like that? Yeah. Well, one day the people in Ukraine were going about their lives. They knew there was a military buildup in parts of Russia and Belarus, but everything, it's spring, it's February, winter is ending. They're beginning to go outside and sit in the coffee shops again. And then one day in February, yeah, there's a bomb and their whole home is destroyed. And maybe their family members killed. It happened like that, didn't it? Yeah. So, what this is getting at is we shouldn't feel too secure in samsara. Yeah. The whole purpose of meditating on the mindfulness of feelings is for us to see that at the end of the day, there is no actual happiness to have in samsara. So let's try and get out of samsara. Yeah, let's aim to actualize liberation or full awakening, where we can be free of this unpredictability, insecurity that is the result of afflictions and karma. Okay? So to get that kind of strong determination and aspiration, I want to be free of samsara, that takes a lot of really contemplating what our situation is. Because on one level we realize, samsara is not that great, because we can't always get what we want, and we get problems which we don't want. And then there's also aging, sickness, and death, which we definitely don't want, but there's no way to avoid. Everybody's going to get old. Everybody's going to get sick. Everybody's going to die. Yeah. So sometimes, we have to really look at that very squarely and think, I want to be free of that whole thing that is powered by mental afflictions, ignorance, anger, craving, and so on, and the karma that I've created in the past. I want to get out of it. Many times we will say, samsara is not that great, but it's just, I haven't had the right circumstances. If I can tweak my samsara, then I can get everything I want. Yeah. So my marriage, we were happy at the beginning, but now it's really kind of, we take each other for granted, we nag each other, we aren't very nice to each other. Yeah, I'm married to the wrong person. Yeah, I should get divorced. Go to make a donation to the used husband network and donate my husband. Donate the used wife, donate them. And then go look for somebody else. Yeah, and fall in love again. Woo! And then I will live happily ever after. Well, that wooey was the same thing you felt for your first wife or your first husband. What makes you think that the second one is going to be better? Well, because I have better discernment now. Yeah. I'll pick, I want a very attractive spouse. So I'll pick somebody who's not going to get old. Yeah. I want a very cooperative spouse. So I'll pick somebody who is never in a bad mood. Do you know anybody who is never in a bad mood? Yeah? They talk about trophy wives now. Have you heard that expression? Yeah, Donald Trump has a trophy wife. She was a model, so she has that look. I feel so sorry for that woman. Oh my God. Yeah. First of all, for who she's married to, but second of all, that she thinks her worth is her physical appearance. When you think your worth is your physical appearance, your athletic ability, your intelligence, anything you think that is your worth, like that for this life, is going to decay. Yeah, your beauty's decaying. We are all getting older and uglier. Yeah, face it, this is what's happening. Yeah, and there's no way to avoid it. I don't care how many facelifts you have. Yeah, we're getting older and uglier. Can we love ourselves when we're old and ugly? Can we love other people when they're old and ugly? Is physical appearance really the standard to look for in a spouse? Yeah. When you're in your 20s and your hormones are going totally wacky, oh, maybe. But then that leads to problems later. Okay. My job, yeah, my job is good, but I could find a better job. I want a nicer boss. You know what I've discovered every time I give teachings, well, not every time, but very often when I give teachings in Singapore, in the Q&A session, yeah, my boss is so mean, da 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 da. My boss tells me to lie. My boss gave somebody else the promotion. My boss doesn't recognize me, doesn't appreciate me. My boss is a total jerk. Everybody seems to hate their boss. Yeah? I mean, do you want to be boss? Yes, I want the power of being boss. Then I can boss everybody else around and they have to do what I want. Okay, but if you're boss, then everybody's going to regard you as you regard your present boss right now, you know? And one of the things is, as soon as you have a position of responsibility, you are the object that everybody blames. Okay? I don't care if you're president, manager, or abbess. Yeah, people blame you for everything they don't want. Okay? So, do you really want to be boss? Yeah. No. If your boss is really, off their rocker or something, yeah, quit your job, get a new boss. But, you know, can you try first to have a good relationship with your boss? Try being nice to them. Yeah. Try having some empathy for your boss. Yeah. Same goes for your husband and your wife. Yeah. Try being kind to them. It really works wonders. Okay. Let me tell you a little story. I'm getting off the tangent, but this is applicable to the four mindfulnesses. So I heard this story at one conference I was at. Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but it has a good moral in it. So somebody was was actually told by a friend of mine who was a counselor, a therapist. And somebody came and said, my husband is just like, he leaves his dirty clothes on the floor and expects me to pick them up. He expects me to be his maid and take out the garbage. And he's always growling and complaining about this and that. I need help with the kids, and he doesn't help with the kids. And, I'm like fed up. Yeah. And said to the counselor, I want not only to divorce him, I want to give him to really hurt him, to take my revenge on this man who has been so mean to me. Okay? I want revenge. So the counselor says, okay, I have the perfect way for you to take revenge. You go back to your husband You do everything he likes. Get the food he likes, help him with different things he's doing, point out his good qualities, be patient with his faults, do the things that make him feel good. Yeah, praise him, things like that. So you make him feel really good, and you make him like you and fall in love with you again. And then you take your revenge, because just when he's in love, you break up and say, I want a divorce. Okay, so the woman goes home. She follows the counselor's advice. So nice to her husband, so kind, praises him, overlooks his faults, points out all of his talents, helps him with different things, never complains, never points out his faults. And so this goes on for some time. And then she goes back to the therapist, and the therapist said, well, how did you go? Did you get your revenge? And the woman said, well, I was so nice to him that he started being nice to me back. I don't want a divorce anymore. Yeah? So a little bit of kindness, whether it's to your husband or your kids or your mother-in-law or father-in-law or your boss, a little bit of kindness can go a long way. Okay. But we think if I'm mean, they will change and do what I want. If I'm mean, they may be afraid of me and do what I want out of fear. But that doesn't mean that they like me or will help me. It just means I've made them afraid. Okay. So the criticism doesn't work so well sometimes when you want to change people's behavior or establish a good relationship. Kindness does a lot. Kindness doesn't mean that you become a doormat, do everything they want, if what they want is ridiculous or harmful or illegal or unethical. Yeah. So those things you don't do. But a little bit of kindness can go a long way. Okay, back to the mindfulness of feelings. Okay, so my point that I got off track with was, instead of trying to tweak our samsara and make it a little bit better, which is actually impossible, we can improve it for a while, but not permanently. Yeah, I mean, Trump's on his third wife. Yeah, and the previous two were also trophy wives and models. Neither of them satisfied him. I sometimes think that it's a disadvantage to be too physically attractive. Yeah, if you're too good looking, then people want to be around you for your looks, but they don't want to be around you for what's inside here. And I don't know about you, but I want friends who don't care about my physical beauty, but care about the internal beauty. Because physical beauty, come, go, go. Internal beauty, yeah, we can habituate ourselves with that and take that on to the next life. Okay. So concentrate on your feelings of past, present, and future. So you can look at what's happening now, what happened before, what you anticipate happening in the future, your expectations for what you'll feel in the future, and look at the feelings that arise right now in your meditation, and things that you experienced yesterday, or all these things. So just become aware of different pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. Because often we aren't aware, but we react strongly to them. So becoming aware of them then gives us a choice about how to react. And so this relates to the meditation at the very beginning of our session. Yeah. When, some people think, well, somebody harmed me. The only thing I can do when I'm hurt is be angry. Yeah. No, there's a choice. Okay, I experienced unpleasant feeling. I don't have to be angry. I don't have to take revenge. I don't have to badmouth the other person or destroy their happiness. Yeah. Why not? Well, for a few reasons. If I take revenge on other people and I'm happy when they suffer, what kind of human being does that make me? That I rejoice in tormenting other people and making them suffer. Yeah? If we have that kind of mind, how are we going to have self-respect? And if we don't have self-respect, how are we going to have happiness? Okay. So taking revenge, getting angry, that doesn't alleviate our pain. Okay. So we have to find another way to look at the situation. Also, another disadvantage of retaliating and taking revenge is if you retaliate and take revenge, does the other person go, oh, thank you very much. Now I'll think that you're good and I'll do what you want. Does that happen? Yeah. Putin bombed Ukraine. Yeah. Does Ukraine go, oh, thank you. You were really right after all. No. When people face retaliation, they feel like they're being attacked. And they retaliate some more. And then you retaliate more, and they retaliate more, and you retaliate more. And then you have, on a global level, you have wars. On a personal level, you have people that you don't speak to again. Yeah. And often the people you say you get really mad at because what they did hurt you are the people who are your relatives and used to be the people you loved the most and relied on the most. So they make some mistake, they do something you don't like. I will never speak to them again. They can go to hell for all I care. Yeah? Does that make you happy? Does that improve the relationship? If you don't speak to your siblings or your parents, what kind of example are you showing for your children? You're teaching your children to get mad at their siblings and to hate you. Yeah. So be careful about this thing of grudge holding. It really destroys families. Yeah. And I can speak from the experience of living in a family that holds grudges. So I'm not going to tell you all the story of my family. Those people, those kind people who brought me up, who taught me, who took care of me when I was an infant so I didn't die or kill myself by doing something dangerous. Yeah. So we have to change the way we look at people who harm us. Whether they harmed us intentionally or unintentionally doesn't matter. Yeah. What matters, what we're talking about, is our feeling of hurt. And we react to that unpleasant feeling by craving to stop what is causing us the pain. But in doing so, we often create more causes to experience more pain through violence and retaliation. Okay? And violence can be emotional violence too, not just physical violence. Yeah. So we have to really stop and ask ourselves, what's the cause of happiness and what's the cause of suffering? And that is actually what you meditate on when you do the mindfulness of phenomena. That's the topic there, which we'll get into if I stop getting distracted and telling you stories. Okay. So become aware of the different feelings you have. Then examine what are their causes and what are their consequences. So especially painful feeling. What's the cause of painful feeling? He did that, she did that, they trampled on me, they criticized me, they talked behind my back, they spat at me, they shot me, they. What's the cause of our unhappiness? We always point outward. That is not the actual cause of our unhappiness. Yeah. We're constantly trying to change the outside situation. Yeah. But we're never able to make the world be what we want it to be. It is impossible. Yeah. So wanting everybody to change and follow our incredible wise advice is really foolish because it's not going to happen. Yeah. So the only thing we can actually change is what's going on in here. How do I see situations? Yeah. And like in the meditation we did at the very beginning of this session, oh, why did that person say or do that? Because they're in pain. And they don't want to be in pain. And they're confused about what the causes of happiness and the causes of suffering are. Just like me, I'm confused about those things. So just like I do stupid things trying to be happy, they also do stupid things trying to be happy. And just as I want people to have compassion and patience for me when I act like a jerk, then I should have compassion and patience for other people when they act like jerks. Okay? And then realize that taking revenge is like shooting yourself in the foot. Okay, I got to go off on another tangent here. I do prison work with people who've been arrested and incarcerated. First of all, I would say 99.9% of them were high on alcohol or drugs when they committed the crime. Okay, this is for the ones who actually committed the crime, not the people who were incarcerated incorrectly. Okay, most of them were intoxicated. Yeah, why do people get intoxicated? They think it's going to bring them happiness and relieve their pain. Yeah. And then you go, well, I go to parties and I have a drink. I can't stand the way it tastes, but so it's not really, I don't drink because I really want to be happy. Well, look a little deeper. I think maybe you drink because you want other people to accept you. Maybe you are afraid that they'll think you're really weird if you don't drink. I've heard that many people close business deals over alcohol. So you're afraid that if you don't drink, you won't close the business deal. Okay. So why do you drink? You're still looking for happiness, maybe not the happiness of drinking, but the happiness of the socializing and the signing the contract and people liking you and thinking you're good. Or maybe you drink because it relaxes you. Yeah, it's a social situation. I'm not very good at them. I'll drink something, I'll relax. Okay, well, when I was in college, I decided to try that out. Yeah, because I had always heard different people talk about, oh, alcohol just relaxes you, you know. And getting drunk, you have a great time when you're drunk. You forget about all your problems. So just go out and drink a lot and have a good time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this one, try it out. My parents didn't drink a lot; they drank a little bit, and we kids we couldn't go near the alcohol in the house. They didn't even let us drink coffee. Thank goodness. Yeah, and they didn't let us drink pop soda drinks. I'm so glad my parents, I didn't like it at that time, but I'm so glad that I wasn't allowed to have those things because now I have absolutely no taste for them. Anyway, back to the story. Um, so I decided, okay, I'm going to go out with a friend of mine to a party and drink and see what happens and maybe get drunk and, because see what that's like. Yeah. All these people are saying, yeah, you feel better, you relax. Okay, so I go and I drink and I drink some more and I drink some more. And I'm laughing and da 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 and have a good time. And then I go home and go to sleep and I wake up the next morning. It took one time of getting drunk for me to see I will never drink again. Never. You inflict pain on yourself. Yeah? When you get really drunk and then you throw up and you get yourself into really difficult situations. Yeah. It's like one time I have never touched alcohol since. Okay. Anyway, drugs were the favorite of my generation. I won't tell you about that. um, okay, but look, what is the cause of an unpleasant feeling? It's actually not the external situation. It's how I interpret the external situation. So often we don't have to suffer, but we choose to suffer. We actually don't say, I'm choosing to suffer, but our choice makes us suffer. And this is why the thought training teachings are so important. Because when Buddha taught Lojong, thought transformation, he really emphasized how to see situations differently so that you don't have to suffer in situations that you used to suffer in. Okay? So it really behooves us to learn those teachings and to gain some familiarity with them and start to practice them. Okay? The cause of pain, it's not other people, it's how I'm looking at the situation. What's the result of pain? Well, I crave for its alleviation. When I crave for the alleviation of pain, do I always act in a way that's creating the cause for my pain to lessen? Or do I act in a way that creates more pain for myself? Like when I take revenge. Okay. So what's the cause of the pain? What's the nature of the pain? What does it feel like? What's the consequence, the result of the pain when I react to the pain in a certain way, with some kind of craving, and then act it out in my life? Same thing with pleasant feelings. What's the cause of them? Chocolate. Yeah. Then check up. Yeah. Lama Yeshe used to always say chocolate as the object that we're attached to. But it could be your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, whatever you think brings you happiness. Yeah. So what's the cause of happiness? Is it actually money? Yeah. Does money give you happiness? Okay. So what's the highest unit of currency in Singapore? The highest bills you have? 100? 500? You have 1,000? Okay. So if I came in here, well, this is imagining, and I gave you 5 $1,000 bills, and they're sitting right there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there happiness in those pieces of paper? There is? Yeah? There really is? Then when I look at it, it brings me happiness, even when it belongs to somebody else. Okay. Is money really happiness? Does money prove your worth, your value as a human being? Does money mean that you're successful? Yeah. The oligarchs in Russia who have faced sanctions, they have plenty of money. People used to look at them as success. Do people look at them as successful now? Yeah. Their $5 million yacht was what do we call impounded by the government. You're facing the sanctions. You can't do your business the way you want to. Yeah, maybe you get arrested for doing dirty business deals. You have a lot of money. Does getting arrested because you earn that money in a rotten way, does that mean you're successful? Okay. So we have to question these things. Does happiness exist? What is the cause of my happiness? If you say money, then why? Where is the happiness in this piece of paper? If I am stranded on a desert island and I need toilet paper, that toilet paper is much more valuable than this stuff. Yeah, money would make awful toilet paper, wouldn't it? Yeah. So really, what's the cause of my happiness? What do I do, to get that happiness? And do I really want to do that? And is the happiness I get really happiness? What does it mean to be a successful human being? Does it mean that finally you're better than your brother or your sister, and your parents think you're better because you have more money than your brother and sister do? Is that what success means? Okay. These are very important topics to really think about. Otherwise, if we don't think about them and we just go on automatic, these things will bring me happiness, we get ourselves into a lot of big messes, really big messes. And that this is the source of a lot of the pain of wealthy people. Yeah, they get imprisoned later because the government tracks down and sees that they earn their money by doing dirty business deals. Yeah, there's a lot of people that happens to. Some people get away with it, but not everybody. Yeah, and then what happens? Then you go to prison. Oh, prison is a joy. Yeah, it's so much fun. Yeah. So, what are the causes? What's the nature of the feeling? What are the results of that feeling? How do I act in response to it? Okay, so that's mindfulness of feelings. Ooh, it's now 1 minute to 12, and pumpkin is going to appear. Okay, so let's dedicate and then we will do the food offering. So my hope is, coming out of this weekend that we spent together, that you go home and you think, I have a lot of stuff I need to think about and get straight in my life. Yeah, if you go home with that kind of thought and then you think about these things and try and get straight, yeah, then it's been a really good course. Yeah. If you go home and say, okay, glad that's over. Yeah, my knees hurt, my back hurt. I was hungry the whole time. She told a few good stories. That made me happy, but the rest of it was too much. Yeah.